Hello, welcome to the tutorial for double exposure fish bulb, I should say. Alright, so this is what the finished product is going to look like, so hopefully we shall get there. We're going to click on File Open, and hopefully you've downloaded the asset files. There's 4. And we're going to start by opening up the light bulb image. And once I have that in the canvas, I'm just going to make a duplicate of this layer because we're going to be doing some things with this image and we might need to come back to the original. So anyhow, I'm going to turn the original layer off by clicking on that visibility icon, and then I'm going to rename this new layer bulb. Okay. Press enter. Now we're going to try to remove this filament section of the light bulb because we're going to have the fish inside. So I'm going to use the content aware tool to remove that filament. So I'm going to select the lasso tool from the toolbar, third tool down. And I'm just going to start off by drawing a freehand selection around this wire area of the filament. And once I have that part selected, I'm going to right click inside the selection. I'm going to choose fill, and then I want to make sure that this says content aware. Click OK. Takes a second. Didn't do a great job, but we're going to try that again. So I'm going to go back over in this section, and I notice I didn't go all the way down to the base of the bulb. Right click again, fill, content aware. Oh, that's better. And then I'm going to draw again just this little stubby part. I'm not in the dark pixels completely. Right click, fill, and click OK one more time. That one didn't work so well. So that's okay. I'm just going to undo that last one and move my selection up a little bit higher and try it again. Fill, click OK. A little better. Alright, so from here, that's probably as good as I'm going to get it right now. So I'm going to use it now a different tool to continue to remove those pixels. This tool is called the clone stamp, and make sure you have the correct tool selected. The way this tool works is it allows you to sample pixels from an existing area of an image and place them anywhere else you desire by using like a brush tool. Okay, so we have the clone stamp. We're going to go up here to the options toolbar, and we're going to just set the hardness of our brush all the way down to 0, and then maybe increase the size to like 100 or so, somewhere in there, maybe a little bit bigger. 120. Okay. Now I'm going to collapse this by clicking on the down arrow. Okay, so the way this tool works is you have to press and hold down Alt on your keyboard, and notice that the icon of your mouse turns into like a crosshair, and then you're going to left mouse click with your mouse one time to set the area that you want to copy the pixels from. So I'm going to click like over in this region here, and then I'm going to release Alt, and I'm going to position my mouse now over here on the right, and I'm just going to start dragging, holding down the mouse and replacing those pixels. So you can kind of see that there's a plus symbol off to the left, and those are the pixels that it's replacing it with. And if you don't like the area that you know, if you don't like the pixels that you've copied, you can always reselect. So you just hold down Alt and click and choose a new area from the canvas that you want to copy. And then use your left mouse button to drag and place the copied pixels into the new area. If you make a mistake, just step back in your history and try it again. Alright, so the next step is we're going to create a shadow effect that's going to be placed kind of beneath our bulb here. So we're going to add a new layer. We're going to rename this layer Shadow. And then we are going to come up here to the toolbar and select the elliptical marquee tool, or you can press M on your keyboard, but yeah, you want the elliptical marquee. And your cursor will change to a crosshair. You're going to hold down your left mouse button and just drag a oval shape onto the canvas, and that looks good. Then we're going to make sure that we have black in our foreground color picker, and then we're going to switch to Paint Bucket, which is in the same drawer as Gradient Tool, or you can press G on your keyboard, and then just fill that area, that elliptical selection, with black pixels. Alright, I'm going to deselect by pressing Control D on the keyboard. That looks really fake, so we're going to fix this up a little bit. Go to Filter from the menu bar, choose Blur, and then we're going to select Gaussian Blur. You want to set the Gaussian Blur to about 16 pixels, and then click OK. Alright, getting better, but still not perfect. We are going to set the opacity of this layer down to like, I don't know, between 35 to 40%. Okay? Alright, that looks better. Okay, next step. We're going to open up the underwater image. So you're going to click on File from the menu bar, and we're going to open it as a smart object. So we're going to select Place Embedded, and then we're going to choose that underwater image. There it is. And once you have it on there, let's switch over to the blend modes drop down and choose multiply. Okay, good. Now I can see my light bulb kind of through this image here, this underwater image. I'm going to drag the underwater image so that the water line is like halfway, maybe a little bit more than halfway down in the light bulb. Okay, so you can kind of see where the top of the water line sort of sets on this silver area of the bulb base. And once I have it positioned, I just commit the transform. And now I'm going to mask this under this underwater image layer, so that only the pixels that remain are the ones that are inside the bulb, and only from like the water line down. Okay, so we're going to click on the layer mask tool. We're going to make sure that you set the brush properties correctly. So we want black as the foreground color. You'll want to make sure the opacity is 100, mode's normal. And you know, I'm also going to, oops, I forgot to switch to my paintbrush. Let's try that again. Mode is normal, opacity is 100, and you also want to make sure that the hardness is relatively low. I'm going to put it at like 20%. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to just quickly remove the pixels from the top of the image. So I'm going to click on the image with my brush, and then I'm going to hold Shift down on the keyboard, and I'm going to click across from it, sort of in this opposite area, and that drew a nice line. So now I can kind of mask that out a little bit better, and then I'm going to increase my size of my brush so it doesn't take me quite so long. I'm just going to remove all of that, and then I'm going to this area as well. Just kind of quickly get out of the way. Oops, I went a little too far there. Gosh. Okay. So now that I've got it kind of a little bit more dialed in, I want you to really take your time masking here, okay? Because I'm going to be looking at the quality of your mask. I would probably recommend, if I were you, I would recommend maybe just masking the pixels out from the bottom. And even if you go a little bit too far, I would get all of those out. And then I would switch over to white. By the way, you can press X on your keyboard to switch from white to black. So anyway, go back to white and make your brush real small, like somewhere in there, okay? And I'm going to zoom in. And then I'm just going to really, oops, I started too high, but really carefully, I'm just going to start bringing those pixels back in, okay? And the slower, the better, really. I mean, we're just aiming for quality right now. So if you are rushed, it's probably not going to look that good. And honestly, I really think that the best key to masking is just zooming in. So I'm just going to go through and kind of get this in there. Go over, maybe make a couple of passes just because the brush is soft. And I'm going to pause the video right now, oops, and come back as soon as I'm done masking. Okay, I hope you had fun masking. Now we're going to apply a hue saturation adjustment layer to make the water a little bit deeper and brighter and prettier. So we're going to come over here to the layers panel, click on this adjustment layer icon and choose hue saturation. Set hue at, let's go to 12, and saturation we're going to do 45, and lightness we're going to do 47. And then I'm going to clip this to the layer below it. So there. Now it doesn't do everything. So this is what it looked like before, and this is what it looks like after. And I know that doesn't look like a vast improvement, but I promise you, once we're done with this, it's going to look good. Okay, so I'm just going to collapse this properties for the hue window. And now it's time to put some fish in the bowl, So I'm going to click on File, Place Embedded, open up my fish image, and I'm going to just drag this corner handle out to resize the image, and then I'm going to move the image up a little bit, and then I'm going to rotate the image slightly by moving my mouse outside of the transform. And when you see that little arced double-headed arrow, that means you can rotate or tilt. So I'm just going to rotate it slightly like that, maybe not that much, like that, and then I'm going to commit. Before I do that, I might make it just a little bigger. Okay, now I'm going to commit. All right, now using your lasso tool, you're going to select these two guys right here, these two brightly colored fish. Okay, and then after you select those two, you're going to right click inside the selection and you're going to choose layer via copy. And what it's going to do is it's going to place whatever is in the selection into a new layer. And there it is. Okay, so now I can delete the fish layer below it because it has all those other fish that we don't want. And then I'm going to rename layer 1 to say fish. Perfect. All right, there's our fishies. You know, and if you want, you can move and reposition them, but we'll probably do that at least once or twice before we're done. I'm gonna make this just a little bit bigger. Okay, So next step is we are going to open up another image. It's called Water Splash. We're going to open it as a smart object. So we're going to do File, Place Embedded. There's our Water Splash image. And it's little, so we got to resize it. And I want to make sure that it's going to cover that bulb area, just like that. But I don't want it too big because then I like the water droplets to kind of be scaled smaller. But at the same time, I don't want to see the bulb below the image. Okay, I think that's probably good. I can maybe go a little smaller. All right. Not too small. There we go. Okay. Now that that's in place, I'm going to commit the transform. And then we're going to go through and, you know, I'm going to rotate this just a little bit. Control T, and I'm going to just set it just slightly rotated. Commit the transform again. Okay, now I'm going to change the blending mode of this layer to overlay. Oh, look how pretty that water looks. And then I'm going to change the opacity of the water splash layer to, let's do like 85% or somewhere close. Okay. Now we're going to mask out, I know you're sick of masking probably, but we're going to mask out these unnecessary pixels. So I'm going to add my layer mask. I'm going to switch to my brush tool. I want to make sure that my brush properties are set appropriately. So I'm going to take the opacity to 100. I want to also make sure that I'm using a hardness level of about 20%. And then I am going to zoom in and start removing, oops, gotta switch, oh that's correct. It's gotta start removing these unwanted pixels from my canvas. So I'm gonna pause the video and come back once this is done. Okay, so we're back. I am now going to have you remove or mask out these pixels in the underwater layer, okay, because now we can see these and they need to go. So we're gonna switch to black if you don't have black as the active color, and make sure that you're in the underwater layer and that you have the layer mask selected. And I'm just going to drag over those pixels. Get them out of there. Okay, looks good. I might have went a little too far, so I'm going to switch to white and then just kind of bring this back a little bit. Okay, good enough. Next step, we are going to reposition the fish. I'm going to click on the fish layer and click on my move tool, and I'm going to bring this guy down a little bit. I don't want him too high up, and I rotate it again. So I'm going to press Control T and something like that maybe, and commit. Alright, now if you're really picky like I am, and if you want to do this, you can move the fish independently from one another. I kind of want to do that. I'm going to use the lasso tool to select this big guy right here, and then I'm going to click on the move tool, and I'm just going to drag him down a little bit further, and then I will press Control D to deselect. Okay, that makes me happy. Okay, so now we're going to add a vibrance layer to the top of our composition. So make sure you have the top layer selected, and then we're going to go to the Adjustment Layers panel, and we're going to select vibrance, and you're going to set the vibrance to 75. That's going to make it look so good. Oh, that's close enough. So this is what, oops, let me collapse that. This is before and this is after. So it just gives it like a deeper, richer color. All right. Now we are basically done, except we're going to add a reflection. So I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to place basically everything that we have done thus far into this one new layer. So easy way to do that is just to click on image from the menu bar and then apply image, and then click OK. And then I'm going to rename this layer reflection. And then I am going to flip the layer upside down. So I first do Control T. Let me zoom out so you can see what's going on here. Control T, and then I right click and I do flip vertical. Okay, that looks a little crazy, but we're not done. So we're going to, let's change the opacity first to 20-ish. And then I'm going to drag this down. And I'm going to zoom out just a little bit more. If you want, you can maybe just rotate it slightly. And then commit. Okay, so that looks good. But I am picky, so I am going to add a layer mask to this, and we're gonna start with removing with our paintbrush here. We're gonna start by removing the pixels that are kind of overlapping up here that are gray. So I'm going to, make sure the opacity is 100, and probably be easier if I start with a slightly larger brush. I don't want to go too big though, because, well, you'll see. It's just, when you use a big soft brush, it kind of will like fade into surrounding pixels. So got to be careful with that. So, alright, that's good. I don't want to get too carried away. And then I'm going to make the brush a little bit bigger. Come over here and hit those pixels out. And that looks nice. So, now I'm really going to increase the size of my brush. And I'm going to set the opacity of the brush down to like 40%, and then I'm gonna just knock away very gingerly some of these pixels so that it looks like the reflection just gradually sort of disappears off this surface that it's on. Just hold down my left mouse button and kind of brush it along. Okay. So that looks good. I'm happy. It's finished. One thing I forgot to tell you guys at the very beginning of this tutorial was to rename the canvas. So you might not have the proper name for this project, but you should name it Double Exposure 1. So I'm going to make sure that I'm putting it in my OneDrive, in my graphic design double exposure folder, title it Double Exposure 1, save it as a PSD, and then you're going to save it as a JPEG, and that's it. So I hope you guys had fun. Don't forget to turn in your project, both the PSD and the JPEG. Alright, thanks guys, bye bye.